Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. It's the midweek edition of the program, and it's the last edition of the program for the month of April. But today on the program, we're continuing our focus on key sectors that can tap into what the theme for this year's World Economic Forum Africa meeting is all about, which is forging inclusive growth and creating jobs. And so on the program, we'll be looking at how the agricultural sector, an agricultural revolution, if you like to call it, can create productive jobs and healthy economies in Africa and in Nigeria in particular. I'm being joined on the program now by an agricultural economist from the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Professor Bola Okuneye, and of course by an agriculture information broker and consultant, African Farmer Mogaji. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for coming in.
Good morning. Thank you.
And Mr. Mogaji, it's very abstract, you know, no food, no future. Mm-hmm. Everybody understands that.
Yes.
And so since we understand that food is very important and so much is being done to ensure that there's no shortage, what would be your general assessment of how much of this has been addressed? Let's look at it from a global perspective, on the continental perspective, that's an Africa, and then we'll bring it home to Nigeria.
Okay. I think generally, if I will score, I would say 50%.
That's on the African perspective?
Yes, African perspective, because I think the developed countries, the foreign world, they are doing more to sensitize us in Africa than we in Africa were doing. However, recently, in the last 3-4 years, we've had African governments across the board standing up to bringing up different initiatives that would ensure we have food security, and of course Nigeria is championing that now.
Because, you know, the Minister of Agriculture says we have about 84 million hectares of arable land.
True.
Now, Professor Okuneye, 84 million hectares, are we using it the way we are supposed to? Are we harnessing it?
We are not really using it effectively and efficiently. In actual fact, it's only about 40% of the cultivatable land that are being put into cultivation in Nigeria. And therefore, we have quite a large, about 60% not being cultivated. Given that scenario, it means that lots of land resources are just being lying fallow or being wasted. Of course, the primitive idea of fallow system, bush fallow system, is still the in thing in many parts of the country. And that means that they allow their land to stay fallow for so many years, they then bring them back to effective production. And that means that if there is increase in population, we need to increase the area of land to be cultivated, apart from the need to really increase the yield per hectare of this limited area of land. But we are not really using that. Apart from the 84 million hectares, we also have about 13 million hectares that are really watershed, that are good for fishing, that are good for swamp rice, and some other areas. But this is really not being effectively put into cultivation. And we need to do this to really ensure food security in the country.
So, Mr. Mogaji, we are calling for a revolution. He has highlighted the fact that we have, you know, that much arable land, and part of it, about 13 million hectares of it, can be used for fish farming and cultivation of rice.
Right, yes.
We're calling for a revolution in the agricultural sector. The Ministry of Agriculture has been championing it. We have some key players in the sector, of course, who have also joined in, you know, following up on this campaign. But in terms of actually doing a revolution to the extent that we can get productive jobs,
okay,
how can that revolution start?
Okay, it has to start with the ministry thinking out of the box. What do I mean by thinking out of the box? We have to begin to influence the youths with a different mindset. And how will that be done? Take, for instance, Tasty Tribe Fried Chicken, TFC, produces what you call yamarita. Yamarita is just yam mixed in eggs and put in flour and fried, and it becomes crispy. And so that's yamarita, different from the popular dundu. Now, what am I saying? We only need to, repackage these things for the youths and in the industry beyond production. The value chain addition has not really been embraced and publicized. One thing the Minister of Agriculture really knows how to do is to use leverage on media. So we need to begin to leverage on media to show people what can be done practically. Take, for instance, a program happened some time ago, I think I mentioned about it. I boiled corn, over 8,000 cobs boiled corn in an 8-hour program, and we sold 8,000 cobs, fresh cobs of corn. We boiled them. So I was the one fanning and roasting myself. And that day we sold at 50 naira. Now, so we only need to show the people the economics of attending these kind of programs, and in a day you bag 300 to 400,000 naira. That is good business. We're not doing enough yet in showing the people the practical naira and kobo of these things. So we need to bring in people who are experienced in the practical aspects of value addition, such that it becomes appealing.
But you see, the truth of the matter is that going to the farm is not appealing. It's very, very hard work.
Yes.
But we want to get food.
Good.
So we want to get food, but we want to get it in a smart way. Mm-hmm. Where does mechanized farming come into all of this? Because the only way I, as a youth, would decide to go to the farm, which is a very, 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 very far possibility at the moment.
Okay.
I would only go to the farm if I know that I'm going to have mechanized tools to work with. Mm-hmm. And so that's the challenge we have. We want the youths to go to the farm, but they're not so used to carrying your conventional hoes, cutlasses, rakes, and the likes of it. And so they'd like to do something more fun. Okay. In spite of the fact that I'm working hard, I want to do something more fun. So, Professor Okuneye, how and when, or who should begin, because we're already seeing some sort of mechanized farming.
Yes.
But it's not as much as we want. And we want to see the youths come to the farm, to take up farming as a profession, not as a vocation or as a hobby, but as a profession, in like what African farmer does, to not only put money in his pocket, but also employ people, and that's what we're really talking about here.
Yes. Let me first of all go a little bit some years back. When we were following our parents to the farm, we had some fun in the sense that we have yam that we can roast. Mm-hmm. We had snails that we can boil, and so we had some funds. But now those funds were not really there. What you can do really to encourage the youth to go into agriculture is that, one, we need to ensure that there's provision of land. Let land be available to them.
But we have land.
We have land, but the various rigidities in terms of land tenure have been limiting land being made available. And that's why we have been calling on state governments, advise your various local governments, get some areas of land, 200, 300 hectares of land, where land is available for the youths. And they can plant arable crops. You don't have to plant permanent crops. Let them plant arable crops. And if you have a farmer that has about 2 hectares of land, he will at least employ at least one additional person. And by the time you have about 200 hectares of land for each state in this country, or 500 hectares of land per local government for each state in this country, then you have so many people being employed. And apart from land, you need to give them the incentives, the money. Firstly, to buy the improved inputs. Secondly, to also practice some simple mechanization. Not necessarily gigantic mechanization, except when we pull the land resources together. That's when you can have a large tractor to be put in place. We were doing that during the NALDA days, the Nigeria National Agricultural Land Development Authority. Mm-hmm. But when the passenger came in, of course, he scrapped it. NALDA then was to the effect that you had about 250 hectares of land in about 2 or 3 sites in each state. And the youths are then employed. And you give them just 4 hectares of land. Out of the 4 hectares of land, they partition about 2 hectares for arable crops, 1 hectare for tree crops, and then the remaining 1 hectare for livestock. So with that, you can employ so many more people. Apart from that, you can also encourage level of investment into agriculture. You find out that there are so many religious organizations now going to various businesses. But rarely can you really identify one or two that will go into agriculture, except the Catholic, and then clam.
Yeah,
clam yes, that now wants to go to agriculture. So, but others, they will want to establish universities. They will want to establish schools. What we are saying is that this employment creation should be not only on the burden of the government alone, but also on the private sector.